Hey everyone, so in the last video we've looked at the glue constraint, and I want to make sure that we also talk about one very important parameter here, and that is the propagation iterations, or in general the half-life, the propagation rate, and the propagation iterations as a whole. That said, the most important one for you is the iterations. So what is this about? I created a simple example here to explain it. It's just a fractured wall, and we have a sphere that crashes through. So it's pretty much the same example as we had before, just with a different setup. And I have an assembly here, so the pieces are packed, and then I activate just the inner parts so that the top and bottom are deactivated and only the center is activated. And then we have a sphere here that is working as a projectile with a start velocity. And then this is how this looks. So what I want to show you with this is that there is an impact area basically around the sphere, and this is what the propagation iteration is about. So as you can see here, not only where the sphere hits, but especially if you run it around it, there's also some destruction happening. And you can actually control how far this is supposed to go. And this is what the whole propagation thing here is about. So the propagation rate is basically saying that every constraint is looking around itself to see if what's going on in terms of energy that is running. But since it only iterates once, this basically only jumps one further to see what's happening. Now, to make sure that kind of there is a longer chain, so the energy travels longer, you really just have to increase the propagation iterations, because the rest is already by default pretty good. To show how that looks like, I have here a version where I changed the propagation iterations to 12, which is, just a random number. It could be anything, but it's much higher than what we had before. And then this looks like this. And what you can see is that the destruction goes much further, and you can really art direct your destructions quite well with that thing. So in direct comparison, you can see the difference between 1 and 12. And of course, you can put in any number you want. So let's try 4 and run the simulation again. And then it will still be further than in the first example, but not as far as with 12. And we can compare this directly afterwards. As you can see, bigger hole on the right. And let me quickly do this with a 30, just for fun, to get a feel for it. And we get a destruction that really destroys the whole wall, which might be what you want or maybe not. But it's really good to know that it's really just this little number here that has a lot of influence over how your destruction works. One small note, as you can see, I used the RBD constraint properties to set my constraint type here, and there is the propagation iterations for glue. If you try to do that with an RBD material fracture, you will notice that this parameter is not there. And I can show you that here there is none in the parameter list. But just what you should try to get used to is, okay, whenever there is an option, this will for sure somehow translate into an attribute. So we can always check what kind of attribute is set here, and surprise, it's called propagation iterations and the propagation rate. So even if you don't have a parameter, you can always set those attributes yourself with a create attribute or whatever, or a primitive wrangle. Just be careful, it's a primitive, so you need a primitive wrangle. So if you work with the RBD constraint properties, it's straightforward, but even if not, you can use this tool. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Just a small tip, but a really powerful one when it comes to RBD glue constraints. So thanks very much, and see you in a later video.